Hello there, and then welcome to a brand new video. This is Hub Beyond Numbers, where we learn maths the easy way. Now, in this video, we are looking at bar chart. We are still on data representation, and specifically, we are looking at data representation using bar chart. When we talk of bar chart, that is what you see on your screen. See, so a bar chart uses rectangular bars to represent data. Now, the length or the height of each bar corresponds to the value it represents. You see? So with what we have over here, this is just a sample, right? If this over here represents a particular category, then this here will represent its frequency. I hope you do get me. So with this, you can be able to tell that this particular category has this frequency. This particular category would also have this frequency. This one will also have this frequency in that order. You see? So the height of the bar corresponds to the frequency. Now, as you can see what we've done over here, on the x-axis, you have to indicate the categories you are talking about. If it is marks of students, ages of students, or whatever, you'd indicate them on the x-axis here. And then on your y-axis, you represent it to your frequencies. You see? So each category with its corresponding frequency over here. Then finally, you would always need a title. You see, if someone takes your graph book or your bar, they should be able to tell what the graph is talking about. That is where you need what? Your title. There are types of bar charts. We have the vertical bar, the horizontal, the grouped, and then the stacked. But for the purpose of our study, we'll just be looking at what? The vertical bar. So let me quickly walk you through the steps we need to draw a bar chart. You first of all need your data. You see, so you get your data, and then secondly, you now label your axis. So you get to know what your x-axis is going to represent, what your y-axis is going to represent. Then you choose a scale, because certainly maybe your frequency, your graph sheet might be too small, such that each square is not going to correspond to a unit of one frequency. So you let us know your scale, right? If you're using 0, 5, 10, if you are skipping in 5, you just let us know that scale as well. If you're able to do all this, you can now straightforward go and then draw your bar graph, right? Or your bar chart. So let's look at some examples on our next page with a question. So let's quickly look at a question. Now we have the question here. It says, a survey was conducted in grade 6 to find students' favorite after-school activities. The results are 25 for sports, 15 for reading, 10 chose art, and then 20 chose music. And we have to draw a vertical bar chart to represent this data. Then we have to answer which activity is the most popular. Then how many more students prefer sports over reading? Then what is the total number of students surveyed? So let's look at how we are going to get this on the bar chart. So this is where I'm going to do my drawing on the graph sheet, right? If you have your graph sheet, you can also take it so you practice along. So first of all, we are going to need our vertical and our horizontal axis, or our x and y axis. So this here is going to be my x and y axis. That is it over here, right? And now I'm choosing to put it on this first one. So let me just include my arrow nicely over here. Now with this done, I would have to choose a suitable scale that will fit my work. You see, the scale should be such that it would cover even the maximum number or the highest number. If we look at the data we have over here, the highest is 25. So I shouldn't give a scale that would let the 25 exceed here. But 25 should be within our range. You see, now since I want my work to cover the whole thing nicely, I'm going to use the scale 1 centimeter is to 2 units. Why do I say 1 centimeter? If I measure from one point to the other, you see where my 1 centimeter spans. It spans two boxes. That is why I am using 1 centimeter is to what? 2 units. But your graph book might not be the same as mine. So you'd have to adjust. So I'm going to get my 2 over here. Or better still, let's look at this again. So if you look at how many squares make the 1 centimeter, it is actually 2, you see. So I'm going to say 1 centimeter is to 4 units. 1 centimeter is to 4 units rather. What do I mean by 1 centimeter is to 4 units? It means from this point to this, I'm going to get a 4 over here. And if this is giving me a 4, then I simply mean this is a 2, 4, then 6, 8, and it goes on and on. Yes, so it goes on and on till I get my 26 over here. So you can also take your time and do yours as well. Now that my y-axis has been labeled, what does it represent? Looking at my data I have here, then it's going to represent number of students. It's going to represent number of students. So I'm going to write number of students and put that here. So as you can see, this is my number of students I have placed there very nicely. Then now we come to our x-axis. What do we want to put at our x-axis? So we once again go to our data. And then these are what we are going to put: the sports, reading, art, and music. You see, sports, reading, art, and music. That's what we are going to put at our x-axis. So I've written them and I'm just going to move them to this place. But before I move them, one thing you have to note is that graphs or these bar graphs must all be what? Evenly distributed. If you are using 2 squares to represent a bar, it should be 2 squared throughout. You see, hence for my spot, I'm going to take my spot and put it on the first 2 squares. I'm going to limit it only to the first 2 squares. You see, then I'll leave the next 2 squares, and then I'll bring my reading to the next 2 squares. As you can see here, this is where I have my reading. Then art is also going to take the next 2 what? Squares. Then music is also going to take the next. Evenly distributed. You don't make one bigger than the other. Just make sure they are all the same. You see. Now I'll be tempted to write my title here, but I wouldn't write it yet because maybe my graph might cover that. You see. So let's finish with our graph, then we can get adequate space where we can put our title. So we go to our data once again, and then we look at the frequencies of all that we need. So sport was 25, reading was 15, art was 10, then music was 20. So we come back here and we draw a bar. So in drawing my bar, I'll start with sport, which is what? 25. And how do I get my 25? Because I have only even numbers over here. So if this is 2, and let me put my 0 here. So if this is 2 and this is 4 in that order, then it means in between, we have our even numbers in between. You get what I mean? So in that case, it simply means that my 25 is going to be between 24 and then 26. You see? So I start from this place and then move my spot towards 25. I do the same over here, and then I can now join these two. That becomes my bar for what? Sports. Then I'll come to reading. That of reading was 15. So I move toward, where do I have 15? I have that here. And then do the same for this as well. And then I can now join the 2. And I move to art. Art was 10. So I move towards 10. The same applies over here. And then I add this as well. Then my last one was music. So we move to where we have our 20. Same applies over here. Then we add them together. And with that, it's very simple as you see. You are done with your what? Your bar graph. You see? So we can add a suitable title. Let's coin out our title from here. It says the survey conducted in grade 6 to find students' favorite after school activities. You see? So I can just say my title will be after school activities of students. So let me just write that here. So I'm just going to leave it as favorite after school activities in grade 6. If you have space, you can just say favorite after school activities of students in grade 6. So we had our number of students here. Then I think we are going to put our activities here. So activities. And they are the what? The sports, reading, art, and music. And you are done. If you finish and you think you have the time, you can choose to beautify it by adding what? Nice shades in it as well. But I don't think that is really necessary, even though that beautifies it, right? But if it is for exams, there wouldn't be any need to beautify. We just want to pay attention to detail, and then that is all. There were some questions under it, and let's try and answer them as well. So the first question was, which activity is most popular? Which activity is most popular? The most popular activity is the one with the longest bar, and that is what? Sports. As simple as that. Then the next one says, how many more students prefer sport over reading? How many more students prefer sports over reading? If you want the number of students who prefer sport over reading, then that is going to be this portion over here. See, all of this, because that is the excess we have relating it towards reading. You see, and how do we get to this? It is 25, 25 from the frequency of sports minus 15, that is from the frequency of reading. And 25 minus 15 gives us a 10. You see, so that is just that for that question. Then what is the total number of students surveyed? To get the total number of students that was surveyed, we are going to add our 25 to, that is 25, the number of students who chose sports, to 15, to 10, and then to what? 20. And I think that gives us 70. It means a total of what? 70 students were surveyed. That brings us to the end of what we have here. And I do hope that you understood this lesson. In view of that, I would leave out some exercises so you try on your own to test your understanding. All right. So let's look at them. So here are some questions you can try on your own. You take your graph sheet and try to test your understanding, right? And I do hope you'll be able to do it. Now, this is the end of this session on the bar graph. We'll be looking at another method of representing data in our next video. Stay tuned, and if this is your first time, you can choose to subscribe so that anytime I release math-related content, you'll be notified as well so that you learn along. I do hope this was helpful. Thanks for staying, and then have a blessed day. Bye.